There, this is Doug from the New Toronto group. Today I'm going to walk you through some tools that you can use to make your AngularJS development and deployment a little bit easier. This will just be an overview of the tools. You'll need to go a little bit deeper if you want to use them, but this should be enough to get you up and running. So the first tool we're going to take a look at is Grunt. Grunt is a powerful, feature-rich task runner for JavaScript. In brief, it lets you automate repetitive tasks like compiling CoffeeScript, minifying CSS, code validation, etc. We're going to be using it to do all of this as well as prepare our code for development and deployment. The next tool we're going to take a look at is Yeoman. Yeoman is a scaffolding tool for web applications. It allows you to conform to best practices in the industry for building applications and standardizing your new project builds as well as creating new files in a standardized kind of way. The final tool we're going to take a look at is Bower. It's a package manager for the web. Those people who have used Linux before, have used Node.js or other software that has a package manager, you'll be familiar with this. For those who are not, a package manager basically handles all the dependencies that your application may have. So we're building an application, it's built on Angular, so Angular is a dependency, and Bower can manage the version of Angular that we're using, the library itself, as well as things like jQuery, etc. can all be managed through Bower. Of course, all of this is running off Node.js. So to do anything that we're going to talk about in the tutorial here, which I won't run us through, you'll have to install Node.js to get this all working, and you can do it at nodejs.org and follow the install instructions there. For those people on Windows, I'm of course using OS X and Bash. You can follow along likely using command line, but if you wanted to follow along doing exactly the same commands as me, you can download Cygwin, which is a tool that brings a lot of the tools that you'll see me using here today to Windows. So if you would like to do that, feel free. Great, so let's get started. I'm just going to hide Safari here. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and install the tools I just talked about. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in sudo, which is a super user command, npm install -g. Now this is going to tell the Node package manager to install all these things globally instead of just in the folder that I'm in. That'll allow us to, across the entire system, have access to these tools, which is of course what we want. So first we're going to install Yeoman. So the package name for that is Yo, Grunt CLI, and Bower. And I'm going to hit enter. So what Node is doing right now, it's going out to the internet and it's going to download these packages and install them on my system so I have access to them all. So we'll just wait a minute while it downloads all these things for us. It may take a minute depending on the speed of your internet connection. Great, so it doesn't look like we have any errors, so we're ready to proceed to the next step. The next thing we're going to install is what's called a generator for Angular. Now, Yeoman uses something called a generator to help you scaffold your sites. Yeoman isn't specific to AngularJS. Lots of different frameworks and libraries you can use Yeoman with. So in this case, we need to tell it how to actually deal with Angular. So I'm going to do the same kind of command, sudo npm install, and we'll install it globally. Generator Angular. And again, it's going to go out to the internet. It's going to get all those great things that I need it to have. Great. So we've installed it. There's no errors. Let's move on to the next step. So we have the tools all installed that we need to run this system. So let's go ahead and create ourselves an Angular application. So first off, I'm just going to take a quick look here. So right now we're in my home root directory folder. So I'm just going to cd to my desktop, and I have a folder already created called Tools Demo. Okay, and what I'm going to do inside the tools demo folder is I'm going to create my Angular application. So to do that, it's quite simple. You go yo Angular, so that's the generator that we just installed, and then we're going to give our application a name. So let's call our application tools demo. So what comes up next is a helpful little set of menus that we're going to quickly run through that Yeoman is showing to us to give us some options at how it wants to create our application for us. So it's asking us if we'd like to use Sass. I'm not going to do that for this case. I'm fine with using less. So I'm going to say no. Would I like to include Bootstrap? Yes. And here there's some optional modules for Angular that that don't come with the core framework itself. They're pretty common for things to use like routes and touch and cookies, etc. So I'm going to leave all these checked. Of course, on your project, if you're not going to use these, you can uncheck them just by hitting the space bar. And I'm just going to hit enter. So what we're doing right now is it's going out to the internet. It's getting all the required dependencies and files. It's going to install them on my computer, both the dependencies and all the files for the scaffolding. So we'll just give it a minute while it goes and does all that. Great, so now we have Angular installed. So let's take a look and see what it's installed for us. I'll just clear the screen out here. And you can see that our once empty folder is now filled with a whole bunch of stuff. So really quickly here, there's some Bower configuration, some editor configuration. It's created a Git repository for us. Of course, it's only a local repository at this point. The tools are using JS Hint. Grunt specifically is using JS Hint to go through and make sure that our JavaScript is all valid. So you can change some of the settings there for that. You can see we have our grunt file here. Our grunt file is basically what, it's a script file that allows us to say what we'd like to automate. So it does minification in this particular case. It's using JS Hint to tell us whether our JavaScript is valid. It'll also go through and run all our tests. So we'll take a quick look at that in a little bit. We have a folder called app, which contains our application code. We also have bower.json that defines all the dependencies, and we'll take a look at that in a couple of minutes. We have Bower components. This is where all those components that we are requiring, such as AngularJS and any other components that we decide to install into our application, are stored. We have our Node modules, which is all the Node dependencies, mostly things for Grunt, things like running Karma, etc., which is the test runner for Angular. Package.json is the file that tells npm or Node Package Manager which software is a dependency for this to run. And test is where all our tests are. So now that we've got this installed, the next step would be to use Grunt to actually compile everything and get it all ready to go. So I'll just clear my screen off here, and we're just going to run Grunt. So it's going through, it's running some tests, etc. It'll give you a status of everything that it's happening. It's doing minification. It's concatenating JavaScript files from several files into one file. And you can see all things that are going on inside the Grunt script itself. There's quite a few things happening that you get just out of the box, and you can go in and edit it to match your own needs as well. So we can see, great, our build is complete without errors. Really, you need to do this the first time and whenever you want to create a distribution of your site. So let's take a look at what that did. If I type LSLA again, so you know, it pretty much looks the same, except for we have this distribution folder now. And inside the distribution folder, we can see that it's a very condensed version of our site. So we have index HTML, some scripts, styles, views. Basically, it's a compiled version of our Angular app without all that other stuff in there. So this is what we would deploy to our web server. And we'll take a look at the contents of those really shortly. Great. So how do we take a look at this site running? Well, let's do that. Grunt actually comes with a web server as well. So what I'm going to do is type in Grunt serve, and just take a second to fire up the web server. And what it's done is it's actually opened up our application as it exists right now. This is what you get out of the box with our scaffolding. Now that we have our application up and running, let's take a look at what's going on under the hood. So I'm going to open up brackets here. You can see a lot of those same files that I already showed you. Let's take a quick look at what we have going on. This is our JS hint file. This is where it defines all the different rules that JS hint is going to follow to tell us whether our code is valid or not. So if there's something in here that you need to add, you want to make sure that it's checking a specific thing, you add that in here. Inside our application folder, this is where most of our code is going to be written, if not all of our code. Things are put in here for you like htaccess files, 404 page, default favicon, which is right now the Yeoman favicon, so you probably want to change that. An images folder that has a picture of Yeoman in it, so this is where you would add all your images in. The scaffolding has created a default index HTML page for us, so let's take a quick look at what's going on here. Right now in here, it's included Bootstrap for us. It's created a style CSS for us that it's linked to. It's created a Angular application. We called it tools demo. Here we can see that it's actually linked to that. There's some plain old HTML that we have inside here as well. And we can see over here we have view folders, etc., that we can go and use. So in our index HTML, this is our view, and we can look and see, okay, great. We can say hello, hello, all that fun stuff. So let's make a change to our file. Say, instead of hello, hello, let's change it to hello world. Okay, maybe an exclamation mark in there too. We'll save our file. Now let's take a look at what happened to our server. As we can see, because we're running grunt serve, that's changed without me reloading anything on the page. Let's take a look at our terminal and see what happened as well. So we can see here it was watching for any changes to any files. In this case, it saw a change to main HTML and refreshed everything, including our browser, which now says hello world. So it's a really quick and easy way to get immediate feedback of what you're doing. It's great if you're using dual monitors because you can actually see it. I couldn't make a video with dual monitors, otherwise you'd see as I'm typing and saving, these things are happening. So what else is going on here? Again, we can see we have our views. Inside our scripts folder here, it's created controllers for us. And we can see here's our default controller. To the scope, it's added some awesome things. Inside our tests folder, it'll have all our test specs. So if I go down to controller test specs here, and I'll look for the main test spec, you can see that it checks for the awesome things to equal 3. So it gives you a test folder to start out with. But say you wanted to add a new page, or say you wanted to add a new view, etc. Well, it isn't just about scaffolding the initial. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to use Yeoman to create new files. Of course, Yeoman is great for scaffolding an initial application, but as you're building your application, Yeoman can also help you to create new files of multiple types. You can create controllers, directives, filters, routes, services, providers, factories, new values, constants, decorators, and new views. So I'll just show you one example here that I think is pretty powerful. What we're going to do is we're going to type yo Angular, which is the Angular generator. We're going to tell it to create a new route. And we're going to call that route, let's call it contact. So what we can see has happened here, it's created a new controller under app scripts controller contact.js. It's created a new test under the test folder for us, and it's created a new view called contact.html. So let's open up brackets here and take a look at what's going on. We can see here, there's our new controller, contact controller. It's all been added in. It's been added to our Angular module, so really we don't need to do anything much else. We can also see down here it's actually added in our new contact.js into our index.html, so we don't need to go in and worry about including that JavaScript in there. It does that automatically for us. As well, you can see we have our view here, and this is the contact view. So if I go back to here and I go Grunt serve, it'll fire up our web server for us. We can see we have our great application. If we go contact, this is the new contact view that we just created. So it's that easy to create a new view, and then you can get coding. It saves you a lot of the kind of managing code hassle and allows you to quickly and easily create new views or whatever else you're trying to create within your code. Next, we're going to use Bower to install some additional libraries or frameworks that we might need while we're building our app. So in this particular case, in this application, I'm going to use _JS for some string manipulation, etc. So let's go ahead and install that as a dependency into our application. And it's pretty simple to do. In this case, I'm going to need to find _JS. So what I can do is go Bower, search, underscore, and it's going to give us a whole list of things, but it's probably the first one that we need here. So this is the _JS. So we're going to take that one, and we're going to say, okay, Bower install underscore. And that's saved, which is great, but there's one problem. If we look in our Bower file, which is the file that tells everybody who's going to be installing this application, what dependencies need to be installed, underscore is not in here. We need to actually tell Bower that we want to save this for other users as well. So if we just do the same thing, but we add save in, it's going to actually edit that Bower JSON file that we were just looking at. So if I do the same command, it's going to go, it already has it installed, so it's not going to download and extract it all. But then we look in here, we're going to see that we have _JS at version 1.6.0. Next, let's take a look at Grunt and what's happening in the Grunt script that we're running. So the Grunt file that that Yeoman generates for Angular is quite long, and it actually we don't have enough time to go through everything that it does here today, but I'll give you a quick tour. So as you go through, you can see it's fairly easy to read. It's well commented as well, so you can see things like what it's doing. It's setting up to watch specific files in this case, so this is a little bit of our configuration. This is configuration for the port that the server is going to run on, so it's going to run on port 9000, and setting up some of the live reload information. So that was where we saw I made a change and it automatically appears in our browser. This is where we define what our distribution folder is going to be. In this case, we're setting up configuration for JS hint. We're defining some functionality for doing clean builds, etc. And it goes on and on. Down at the bottom here, you'll see once we have all these things set up that we want to do, HTML minification, SVG minification, concatenation of HTML and of CSS and JavaScript. We're going to go straight to the bottom here, and this is where we start to run our tasks. So we can set up a whole bunch of different types of tasks. In this case, there's some fairly common ones. You can install plugins for Grunt that allow you to run shell scripts, etc. There's quite a few registered tasks, and I think it's just best if you set up a Yeoman Angular install. Take a look through this yourself and kind of see what it's doing, play around with it a bit, change the script up. You'll find that it's a very powerful tool for helping you automate a lot of tasks that really you shouldn't be worrying about. You should be worrying about writing your code. So let's talk a little bit how Grunt can help us create distribution packages that are efficient, fast, and really saves you a lot of the trouble that you might have of running things like minification, etc. manually. As we can see, this is our index.html file that we would be editing as we work through with Angular. We saw a little bit earlier it has our view, our application. There's some HTML in here. They throw in some Google Analytics code for you. One of the most powerful things I think you're going to see is right down here. Now, as everybody knows, as you increase the number of JavaScript files that you have, that's just one more trip that we have to make to the server to download something. There's a lot of HTTP overhead, and we should avoid doing that wherever possible. Try and condense it down into one script. So how can we do that? Well, Grunt actually, what it does, as you can see from the comments here right above it, is it actually goes through and it actually builds out JS files for us that are minified but also concatenated into a single file. So we can see all our Bower components here. These will all get minified, compressed into one file. As with the script that we're writing, this is our script, so this is our controller script or our main app.js. That's all going to get concatenated into one file as well. So we're going to go from all these files down to one. Same with CSS up at the top. You can see similar comments up here. So we have our component CSS. This one in particular is Bootstrap, and then we have our our custom application CSS, and maybe we have 5 or 6 in there that we're referencing. As long as you put it in between these comments, it's going to concatenate your CSS into a single file for you and minify it, or uglify it as they say, and really give you kind of the best possible package for page speed downloads. So once we're ready to distribute our application or put it onto a web server for quality assurance or whatever else we're trying to do, we don't have to put all those files and all those dependencies together as they exist in our development environment. We can create a much more compact and elegant distribution package together. And as we saw earlier, when I run the grunt command, that is how we do it. So I'm just going to run grunt here. We've added in a couple controllers, a couple views, etc. So again, it's going to go through. It's going to concatenate all those JavaScript files, CSS files, etc. It's going to uglify our HTML. It's going to go through and run all the tests just to make sure that what we're distributing actually passes the tests that we wrote and is going to work. It's going through and minifying right now, which is probably the longest part. Uglifying. So let's give it a second, and we can see how long it took to do each task, and gives you some statistics on how much things were minified. So in some cases you might only get a couple bytes here, a couple bytes there, a couple K here, a couple K there, but as your application grows, I think you'll start to see more and more benefit from this. So let's take a quick look at what's been created in our folder. So this is the distribution folder that's created right here. it contains basically everything that you'll need to deploy to your server. So it has that htaccess file that we saw above. It contains our 404 file. Any web fonts that we're using are included here. All our images are brought over, and you'll notice that there's this string of numbers after it. And what it's actually done is it's actually created a random set of numbers after your image. And what that allows for is if you have a CDN or any kind of caching that's going on, it'll keep that image from, if you've changed it, from being the old image. It'll make sure it's always the latest image whenever you deploy something out. And it changes all references in the CSS and HTML to this particular image name. So it's a pretty powerful way to make sure that you're not getting cached versions of images pushed out, and you're having people seeing weird stuff as the caches get cleared. We can see here that our HTML file has been greatly reduced in size, down to about 12 lines. We can see here that all those scripts that we had in our old index file are now concatenated into 2 files. And if we take a look at those, it's not going to be very readable, but we can see it has everything that we had in there before. It's just been optimized for downloading over the net. Same thing with our CSS. All the white space has been removed, etc. So again, really powerful way to make sure that you have great site speed, etc. What you're deploying is efficient and ready to go for mobile users and everybody else on the internet. Well, that's it for today. I hope this has been somewhat helpful to you. If you have any additional questions for us about anything that we talked about here today or anything else about HTML5, Angular, etc., feel free to contact us. Our website is newyyz.com, or if you want to email me directly, my email is dougr@newyyz.com. Thanks again.